Hello, and welcome to the MMA Draw. I am your host, Chris Rini. It is Monday, April 15th, 2024. Let's get started recapping, rewatching, celebrating UFC 300. The absolute standout performance of the event was Max Holloway. My goodness. Was that one of the most amazing things you've ever seen in your life? I am one of the people who chose against Max. I thought that, given his last trip to lightweight, the power differential that I saw between him and Dustin Poirier combined, I am aware that Max had more time to put on weight and be, more functionally ready for this weight class change. But the fact is, there are people who have been lightweights their whole lives, and there are people who have, Max has never been a power guy, right? So I also, there's a guy he's a volume guy, right? So and on top of that, Justin Gaethje in his last two performances has looked absolutely amazing. Against Rafael, I don't remember. He's not Brazilian. It's Rafael Fiziev. He looked stellar. Fiziev just absolutely outpaced him in the beginning. Gaethje is unbreakable mentally, and just so you know, I have my reference over here. That's why I always look this way. Fiziev looked markedly faster. Gaethje persevered, totally pieced him up in the end. It was a great performance. So this Justin Gaethje, the one who is more cautious and not cautious, controlled, a controlled and considered Gaethje who still maintains that level of power. I just couldn't pick against him. I've only ever seen Gaethje really stumble against grapplers, and I'm ever since changing his style, after the Poirier and Alvarez losses. All this is to say, this was one of the most amazing moments I've ever seen in I think I've been watching fighting since about 2008. I got really hardcore into it by 2010. That's when I was like, all right, I'm going to start watching these events live. By 2013, I was working in the media for Vice. And this is still one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. It's one of the only times I've ever leapt out of my seat. Just completely blown away by I can think of a couple times this has happened. When Demetrius Johnson hit that suplex armbar on Ray Borg, that was one of them. When Leon Edwards knocked out Kamaru Usman, that was the most recent. And then there was a really good run, I think in 2016, where Nate versus Connor won, Holly versus Misha, and Bisping winning the title against Luke Rockhold. Those are that is a special time in MMA right there. And I guess we're living in one right now where we've got, Max Holloway did something. This is more than like a resume building performance. This is, what's the way to, it's a personal legacy. I know that there was a belt attached to it, and we can debate the merits of a novelty creation that is actually the creation of Nate Diaz that the UFC went and trademarked, and then it was created by the fighters, the BMF, the baddest motherfucker belt, title, acknowledgement. All that stuff. That was created by the fighters. It was seen as thank God the UFC finally did something a little bit fun. That was cool that they embraced it. Of course, they embraced it by monetizing it, and and booking the trademark for it long before you ever saw people fight for it in the octagon. But anyway, that's their way. That's just their way of doing things. That's how they show you they love you. They own you. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, okay. I want to say one thing about the finish itself as well for Mr. Max. That moment where, you know, Max Holloway did his thing, you know, another thing that the fighter invented, that like pointing his finger at the ground, this is it, we're gonna go, right? That's more impressive because of the 24 minutes and 50 seconds that Holloway put in, outclassing Justin Gaethje. That's what he did. It was, you know, believe it or not, what it's kind of similar to is the Yair Rodriguez last second knockout, except Max was in the Korean Zombie's shoes. He could have just, you know, run circles for the last 10 seconds and still walked away, like having outperformed many people's expectations, you know, outclassing, quite frankly, an excellent striker in Justin Gaethje. You know, I wrote from my prediction for the MMA Draw substack that Justin Gaethje is one of the best strikers I have ever seen, in terms of like this powerful, you know, destroyer, like, who can harness that berserker energy into a careful and considered execution. That, you know, that is one of the most dangerous people I've ever seen. That goes back to the Barboza win, the James Vick, right? James Vick. Yeah, I'm thinking of Michael Vick. You know, that is one of the scariest. How about that? Maybe not best, scariest. Like a Justin Gaethje with a plan. You know, the take 10% off. The thing that Trevor Whitman told him during the Tony Ferguson fight. That is it. That is the most terrifying fighter or striker, let's say, I think I've ever seen, or one of them. You know, this is not the kind of person that you want to see, like a fighter who grabs at your heartstrings. You don't want to see him square up against that guy. That's just a nightmare. So I was not ready for Max's performance. I was not ready to see his footwork and jab, his body work. I wasn't ready for what he had prepared for Gaethje, and I was just thrilled. I was thrilled when he got out of the first round, and you know, I mean, it was stunning when he broke poor Gaethje's nose. That was a rough one. But and if you're one, you'll know what I'm drawing. It doesn't matter. That's all right. I'm just one thing I hate doing that you have just watched me do is to put in an entire figure, and then I'm like, great, now let me put someone else in the screen or in the picture plane and get the proportions and relationships perfectly right. I should just I mostly like to sketch them both out first, but you know, I'm kind of winging it here. This is my first 2-camera recording, and I'm really excited to be able to, you know, be here with you. The first episode I did, I just recorded a straight up voiceover with this little microphone, this little Rode mic that I have, which I actually rather like it. It's got a really nice profile, really warm sound. There we go. All right, so let's just wrap this first idea up. Max Holloway, he's the man. He stole the show in one of the most densely, in terms of quality, one of the most densely packed UFC events in recent years. I'd have to like scroll through Wikipedia to find a better event, or at least a comparable one. Man, you see that? I'm like overworking this thing like crazy. But that's life. That's how we do, you know. So kudos to Max. He did not. You would say you win a belt, that's adding to your resume. I would disagree with that. I would say that Max added to his legacy. He really put on a performance that defined who he is as a fighter and as a person. He came in fearless, prepared, with a game plan. He busted out his spinning back kick. Let me tell you something. Daniel Cormier, look, the man is renowned for his inability or reluctance to prepare. He kind of skipped the Joe Rogan path. What was it, speed run? Is that what you do in video games? He did a little speed run on the Joe Rogan career path, where he went from like extremely knowledgeable guy to just like dude who's winging it in it like it's a podcast. He did that in record time and in years shorter than Joe did. DC's will forget more about wrestling or MMA or striking, he knows more about doing push-ups than I do. Nevertheless, when he said Max Holloway, he adding to his toolkit with the spinning back kicks, it's like, dude, that was Max's like signature move when he got to the UFC. That was his thing, and he used to give up his back all the time. He used to. It was like, oh, what it was so people. I was a fan of him pretty early on. So reluctantly happy because I love spinning. I love kicks. Kicks are amongst. As a child, I did Taekwondo, so I kind of love when somebody can throw a cool kick. Also, Crow Cop was probably the fighter who got me into, it was the first fighter I became a fan of. When Max stopped throwing that spinning back kick, man, which lost him the Dennis Bermudez fight. That was like, all right, this dude's taking it serious now. So he busted out his old mainstay, and maybe it was because they knew that Gaethje had this propensity to duck down. That's kind of something that's never really left his defensive quiver. When he first got to the UFC, his whole thing was that he was, he used to shell up. He'd do the kind of the bull guard, and he would take the punches on the top of the head, which was definitely, everyone was like, ugh, this dude, he's really, really not playing the long game with his life and his health. But anyway, maybe Max and his team, maybe they keyed in on that, and they built that. They reincorporated the spinning back kick into his game. But I just want everyone to know that has been Max's thing for a long time. We're talking well over a decade. That was his jam. So as you can see, I've got a completely out of proportion. What's his name? The champ, the 205-pound champ, Alex Pereira, who he himself had an absolutely stunning night. This is the moment before his unbelievable knockout of Jamal Hill. I heard that Hill got a good bag for taking this fight. Good for him. If you've followed my work over the years, you know that fighter pay is a major concern of mine. And with that, let me just get this out of the way. I've worked in MMA for over a decade. I started out with Vice. I took a small break when I had kids and damaged my arm. I wasn't able to really make artwork consistently for a couple years. I came back as an editorial cartoonist. I did a cartoon called MMA Squared, which ran at BloodyElbow for a couple years. And then I became an editorial columnist. And I am a huge proponent of the idea that the fighters are underpaid, that they should have a union, that they should have better representation, and that, the UFC is basically functions like baseball in, the 1930s. That's my deal. I'm a baseball guy, or at least that's how I grew up. I read a lot about the history of that sport, labor unions, representation, contract exploitation. This is like deep in my personal history, long before I understood or even knew about MMA. That all said, with the demise of BloodyElbow.com and the settling of the fighter lawsuit, I'm kind of done with my old way of being. There's no room in the MMA landscape for a guy like me to be a columnist or a cartoonist who wants to point out labor disputes or inequality between labor and management. That's it. Those days are done. Those days are done. It was great. Nate Wilcox was able to, pay me to talk about that stuff. I'm so grateful. And Nate also hooked me up with this YouTube channel, and that's why I'm running things here. But at the end of the day, like, the UFC won. Like, the bad guys won. They settled the lawsuit. The Bloody Elbow is out of business. And now we're the MMA Draw. And I have to rethink my relationship to the sport and being a member of the media. And if I was like, do I want to do this? And I decided that the answer for now is yes. I do want to continue to do this. I am taking the advantage of this opportunity to run this YouTube page to rediscover my love for MMA. That's it. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna do my drawings, give you my opinions, and I had something to add back then when I just started, and I have something to add now for people who want to follow this sport and understand what it is that I bring to the table. So here's the deal. I make a book every year. It's called The Fine Art of Violence. And I'm going to use this, YouTube channel as my sketch pad. I'm also going to try to avoid ads. I'm going to just tell you that I have a Patreon where you can fund my art studio and get a copy of the book as a thank you, as a reward for doing so. But I will also try and keep this YouTube channel as, I hate to say it, but demonetized as possible. Because I'm going to run a boutique. That's it. Like, I'm an artist. There's not going to be this thing where people are, let's see, what do we want to say? How do we want to say this? Like, I'm not going to be a million sub, people come in here kind of thing. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that there's going to be, my goal is to have like about 1,000 fans who want to pay $10 a month to fund my art studio, and I will make a book for you at the end of every year, and it will be a pretty sick collection of the sport that you follow, that we enjoy. In the past, I've gotten some great writers to do some pieces for me. Chuck Mindenhall, Eugene S. Robinson, Fernanda Prates, Julie Kedzie. I've all written Sean Al-Shadi. These are titans. These are the people I always dreamed of working with, and I ended up never working at the same sites as them, so I just reached out to them. I've been very fortunate. Before I had kids, I was able to go out to Vegas and work UFC Fan Expo. I brought a bunch of artwork there, and I met Esther Lynn and Casey and Jeff Wagenheim, and they're awesome people. I'm really grateful that they appreciated what I was bringing to the table, and I'm going to keep doing my thing, and I hope that I can find that. I know that audience exists, but I'll find them again. I've been a little out of the loop lately. I moved to Denmark 2 years ago, and it's very easy to just get swept up in like, getting your kids to school and meeting new people and trying to build a whole new social network. I moved here with no family or existing network. It was just me, my wife, and my 2 kids. And we've been, I'll say we've been thriving, so I'm just going to stick it out here for the time being or until they kick us out. We just bought a house, and this is my new studio, so that's pretty sick. There's actually a tiny bit of his tricep there. Maybe we'll put that in there. Oh, there's a nice little Alex Pereira right there. That's his knockout shot of Jamal Hill. We'll call that. That's a nice one. We'll sign that. I don't always sign my work. I should just make that a regular act. So thank you for being here. I'm gonna wrap it up in a minute. I got a sick kid upstairs. Another one. I'll tell you what my life is like right now. I woke up. I knew that one of them was going to be sick, and then the other one had a dentist appointment. So I leave one kid at home, which you can do in Denmark. I'm back in New York City, where I'm from. You could not do that, and I actually had a really bad confrontation with the cops once about child stuff. That was awful. And so I left one kid at home, took the other one to the dentist, showed up at the dentist. They're like, your appointment's for tomorrow. And I was like, dude, I'm dying here. My wife is actually in Germany because she's got a business meeting there. And I thought this was today. And they were like, they took pity on me. They were like, all right, let me see what we could do. They got my daughter in. They took an x-ray. It wasn't a big deal today. They were doing some follow-up stuff. And okay, I'm trying to do Armin Sarukian, who I am a rather big fan of. Anyway, I did it wrong. His foot is never gonna make it. He's never gonna make it up. Let's see if we can do this. I like that axe kick. Anyway, so I take my daughter to the dentist. They squeeze her in. Mercifully, they're like, you don't have to come tomorrow. Let's do this. Take an x-ray. And I get her to school and come home. My son is home and he looks good. He's just well enough that he's like, hey, you want to play? You want to do some stuff? You want to put on a show for me? You want to do some things? But he's not so good so that he can go to school. But you know how kids are. You get that day of freedom. You get that freedom energy even when you are sick. I remember being a kid, being sick, and be like, don't show off. Don't show them how good it feels to not be at school. I was not a good student. I had a rough one in school. When your big skills are drawing, let me tell you, in the 80s, that is not a recipe for encouragement. Anyway, so I decided to, I took care of him, and then I did some sketches here, and I recorded a bunch of audio clips like this, and they were all pretty bad. So I sat down for lunch, made myself some lentil soup I heated up from last night. By the way, I love cooking and I love eating, so we could chat about that stuff if you ever want to. I'm all about it. I'm all about teaching young men and women how to cook because, like I said, I love to eat and I'm an artist, and therefore that means I could never afford to eat as well as I like unless I do it myself. Oh man, did you see Armin Sarukian punch that guy in the stands? That was good. That was like, all right, kiddo. What did he say? I'm from Russia. Don't mess with me. I'll go to jail. I had some lentil soup, and I actually wrote a script for this video. And while I have deviated heavily, it was extremely helpful to collect my thoughts. All right. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Oh man. This anatomy is crazy. This is the kind of thing I would prefer to do with a lot more reference material close at hand. What I'm gonna do is take this all to the iPad, chop it up, resize it, relay it out, and then turn it into a piece. So there you are, episode 2 of the MMA Draw. You know what? I'm not even gonna link to my Patreon yet. I'm gonna redraw it and revamp it. I'm gonna give you some samples of the work, the books that I've made, what's available, and what you would actually help fund should you choose to support me. If not, I'm actually really just glad you're here. This is I've always wanted to run a YouTube channel, and I'm really glad I have the opportunity right now. So thanks for spending time with me. My name is Chris Rini. This is the MMA Draw. My goal will be to produce, 3 of these a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This has been your UFC 300 recap. Join me again on Wednesday, April 17th. Subscribe, like, wave, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you next time.